This is Lisa Harnish with Certification Partners. I'm here today with Dr. James Stanger and Patrick Lane to talk about the latest in our CIW series of webinars. Today we are talking about teaching the future of the web, the new CIW Site Development Associate Certification. Good morning, James. Good morning, Patrick. Say hello for everyone.
You bet. Good morning. So, Patrick, you're calling in from Dana Point, is that right, from California?
That's right, I am, James. Think Disneyland. We're just 30 minutes south.
That's right, the happiest place on earth. So good to have you here, Patrick. So everybody, welcome from CIW. We're going to be talking about the new Site Development Associate Certification, and we've brought Patrick Lane along, who is the author of the most recent version. So what we're going to do today is talk about a bit about CIW. We're going to introduce you more to Patrick Lane, and then talk about the specific changes to the course, what we've added, what we've subtracted, and what we've divided. So for those who say, hey, I don't do math, sorry, we're doing math here on this webcast because we're talking about the things that we've added, things that we've taken away, and things that we've kind of moved around a little bit. So you're going to learn more about how we teach students how to code HTML, to how we introduce them to the development world. We're going to talk about the debate having to do with converting traditional web pages into mobile sites, and we're also going to talk about how CIW helps position your career for the future of web design. So just a bit about us. I'm James Stanger. I'm President and Chief Certification Architect of Certification Partners. I've done a few things over the years, working for Linux Magazine and Ubuntu User as a regular columnist. But more importantly, Patrick Lane is an author and blogger and technology consultant. He's done a lot of work on the web on a day-to-day basis, in not only in HTML5, as we'll learn in just a bit, but also open source and security. Patrick has also been a curriculum developer, and there's his picture there just for everybody to take a gander at it. So, Patrick, we'll get into a little bit more into your past and your future and your present and all that fun stuff. But first, a word from our sponsor. We'd like to tell you that we are CIW. We are a skills-based education standard. We're a certification program. And we're more than just a bunch of people that have the latest book on HTML5 and CSS. We offer sophisticated courses and certification exams in web development and design. Our whole goal is to put people on a lifelong learning path concerning the web and concerning the IT profession, not just on a vendor's product treadmill. We're vendor neutral. We take the best vendor applications as judged by industry, open source, as well as proprietary code, and we teach people how to use it. We focus on competencies and job roles, and we're a globally accepted certification. As a result, many entities have said nice things about us. Internet.com has listed us as a top developer cert, one of the top 5 certs that puts your career on a fast track because we combine in-demand skill sets. So the whole idea, again, is that we put people on a lifelong learning path, not a vendor's product treadmill. So we start you out with CIW Web Foundations Associate, of which the Site Development Associate course is a part. And we can start you off throughout your career as you move up to something, say, the CISSP certification. You start as an IT administrator, then a manager, and then an executive. Or you start as an associate's degree in college and move on up to bachelor's. And CIW follows you along the way. So the job roles that we write to, for example, e-commerce, we teach unique skills that you would not get normally. So whereas a typical e-commerce specialist will earn, say, $73K US, the skills found in e-commerce will give you a significant bump. It's along the same lines with our JavaScript Specialist certification, our database certification as well, and of course, our Web Design Professional course, which our Site Development course is uniquely designed to prepare you for all of these particular skills. So I just wanted to give you an overview of CIW. Well, now let's get to the fun stuff. Patrick, tell us a bit about yourself and some of the experience that you've had with HTML5 and in the larger security and server administration space, and also your work as an author and curriculum designer.
Oh, sure, James. As far as HTML5 goes, I recently was part of a team that developed some internet learning materials called internet modules for criminal justice, believe it or not. I was part of the team that worked with HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS to put together these interactive modules for students. The reason why we did that is because the company that I was hired out for, which was Pearson, was going to introduce iPads to the school. And so we wanted to then make sure the material worked with the iPad. The problem was we couldn't use Adobe Flash, and everything that had been used previously had been Flash, but suddenly none of the interactive content would work. So we had to figure out, okay, what are we going to do about this? And so what we wound up doing was using this HTML5 trifecta, so to speak, as we're going to discuss, to recreate the material they'd previously done in Flash. And so it was a lot of fun. And so I was able to use a lot of that experience in this new SDA book that we'll be talking about in a bit. And it was totally cool. We were doing drag and drop exercises that we recreated using the JavaScript with the HTML5 elements, and it was successful. And I think that's going to be the future of the internet, as we'll talk about. As far as server administration, I've been a server administrator for Linux systems, for Windows systems. Back in the 90s, I was an MCSE and an MCT, and so I had a lot of experience with mail servers, web servers, and then worked a lot of back end. Then also with regards to authoring, I've written books for Elsevier, Hack-Proofing Linux, James, which I co-authored with you, as well as books on email. Also, 3 books for CIW certification that were acquired by Pearson, and so there's been a lot of work with that, and so I've been really curriculum developer, educator, and technologist. I'd say, to summarize it.
So when we saw Patrick's unique skill set, we said this is perfect, because I really like your HTML5 experience, for example, in that you implemented it, but you also, as you saw issues with it, you had to overcome them. And so it's that kind of practical experience that was very attractive for us in using you for the update for the course. So thanks for the overview, Patrick. We really appreciate it. Well, let's talk about the specific changes that we've made. I mean, the big addition, obviously, is we've moved things from XHTML to HTML5. So, Patrick, tell us a bit more about how it was to move the course over to HTML5 and how important it was to implement external CSS throughout every lab.
Sure. Well, I'll start in a nutshell about HTML5. It was basically designed for mobile devices. The reason being is plugins have used a lot of battery power in the past, and so it was determined that the industry really needed a way to go where all their batteries wouldn't be sucked dry. So somebody can have iPad or an iPod or a Droid phone that will last for days or a week instead of 4 or 5 hours running plug-in. So the first goal was save battery power by excluding all plug-ins. And that's what's amazing in this HTML course, this HTML5 course, SDA version 2, is that we removed any plug-ins. You're able to do video, audio, multimedia, everything without plug-in. And it's totally cool for that purpose. The other thing that I found is that it forces you to use CSS, and that's probably the biggest change that instructors are going to find, is that external style sheets. You can no longer add those elements, or I should say attributes, for style within the code of the HTML document. You have to pull it out, or else it won't validate. So you really force people to do that now. Another thing, you've got here on the notes, from XHTML to HTML5, it's important to note that the W3C, which is the group that creates these standards, tried to develop a second version of XHTML. And what happened is it was so rigid and it was so strict in the coding. For instance, you had to use capital letters or lowercase letters for given elements and attributes and values, that it became cumbersome. And so they actually abandoned XHTML 2.0 during development, and they chose to go forward with HTML5. Because although it does require the CSS file sheet, it's actually very forgiving in many ways. Where you can forget to add an element and it will still validate. So in that sense, it's great. And it really strips down the code in the HTML documents. You'll see how clean they are. And so I think that, the other big thing for you all to understand is that we tried to develop this course so that it's non-operating system specific and it's non-browser specific. And the reason being is that now that we're moving into a mobile world, you're finding a lot, especially with HTML5, it really doesn't matter. You can use Opera, you can use Chrome, you can use IE9, and you can use Firefox. Notice I didn't say IE8 or IE7, mind you.
Right, yeah.
And the reason is because those are not HTML5 compliant. And I think we might be talking about that in a bit. Oh, you've got it right here.
Yeah, we got it right here. So just keep going talking about that. So there's an issue, right? It has to do with IE7 or 8 having to do with HTML5.
That's right. And the issue is that Windows XP or Vista are unable to use IE9. You simply can't install it. So you have to have Windows 7 in order to run IE9. And so those older browsers, those older IE browsers, are where people are going to run into some difficulty. Now, we've included a fix in the book. There's some JavaScript that you can add to the head element that will create the new element so that the browsers will be able to identify it. However, you have to add that to every page, and it can be cumbersome. So what we would recommend is, if possible, if you have Windows XP or Vista, please use Chrome, Firefox, or Opera, and of course IE9, because then you will then be able to render the HTML5 code properly.
Okay. Very good, very good. I think it's important that kind of troubleshooting is very important to understand, because I think what we find is that people really want, the companies want coders, right, and people who are troubleshooters rather than just typical GUI jockeys. And you made some comments to me earlier, Patrick, about Facebook and Netflix and basically, what these companies basically are looking for in an employee. Care to tell me a bit more about that?
Yes. When I was trying to find out, okay, who's using HTML5? Is it, worth upgrading to? Pretty much I got yes, yes, yes on all sides. There's a famous speech, Thoughts on Flash, from Steve Jobs. Whether you like Apple or not, that's an incredible document that I would recommend everyone on this call reading, because it explains exactly why HTML5 is needed, plus JavaScript, plus CSS. It's for mobile devices. So then they said, well, who's using it? And what I found is that Facebook is using it. All of their apps, believe it or not. Now we're talking about even their mobile apps. So this is, beyond mobile websites. This is going into mobile applications. And so Facebook has designed all of their mobile apps, for both the iTunes Store and for the Android market, which is now the Google Play store. That all their apps are developed in HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. Netflix has done the same thing. There are many who believe that is the way that all mobile apps are going to be developed. So what you have to understand is this code the kids are learning in SDA is going to help them develop mobile apps plus mobile websites. And it's already being done by, the huge sites out there. And so this is not, we're not messing around here. This is the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And as part of that, what we've done in the course, for example, and this is just kind of where we want to kind of deep dive everybody on this call into a particular lab. You have in Lesson 9 where you basically take a web page that's created in a GUI HTML editor, and then you have students take that code, right, that was generated by the editor, and then upgrade it to HTML5. What I find interesting about this lab is it's truly instructional. It gets people understanding, okay, this is what, a previous page that was created, and then it allows people to kind of bring their coding skills to life. What kind of inspired you to do a lab like that? Why would you, go that direction? I think it's a great way to go.
There was 2 reasons. The first is that if students can finish Lesson 9, they will be masters of HTML5 and CSS. To be able to go into an HTML4 document, HTML document, strip out all of the style, and then add it to an external CSS sheet is huge. If you can do that and render the page the same as it was, you really know what you're doing. And the coding is extremely important as you move forward, more important than it was in the past. And that brings me to the second reason why this is so important, and that is because GUI HTML editors, any open source GUI HTML editor has not upgraded to HTML5 that I could find. There are some that claimed they did, but as soon as I experimented with it, I realized, oh, look at this. The doc type, the doc type structure is still HTML4. And so it was, a bit, it wasn't as truthful as it could have been with some of these. So, and the reason is because it's very difficult for these open source free style sheets. Even the W3C's GUI HTML editor that they created has not been upgraded to HTML5 due to the difficulties of pulling out style and putting it into a CSS, whether it's inline. Due to the fact that you have to think about how you're going to do it. It's logic beyond any application right now because there's a lot of custom styles that are required, and you have to create classes in some cases, which we'll talk about in a bit, which requires people to think, developers to think. How do I want to do this so that it's most efficient? And that's why I believe no one has done it. Of course, you can pay for Dreamweaver, you can pay for Microsoft's Expressions Web, they will do it, but none of the open source freebies are doing it at this point. And so, I figured a lot of people out there are going to be working with open source also, and so if they wanted to validate, they're going to have to know how to do this.
They're also going to be working with pages that were created beforehand and may not have the luxury of popping it into an editor that does it for you. And I tend to have an issue with any editor or whatever that does stuff for you automagically because it tends not to do it right. You've got to delve into that code. And the whole point of this course is to get people to begin to see the world of development, not just design, that's obviously there, but also development. Very important. Well, Patrick, tell us about the trifecta that you discussed throughout the course. That's one of the additions that we've done, the trifecta of HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript.
Well, sure. I've talked about it already in this discussion because this trifecta, quote unquote, that's just a term used by some developers. It refers to HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript used together. You'll also find the trifecta in thoughts about Flash. This trifecta is also what the W3C is moving forward with. It's the way that developers on the web are going to be able to create applications for mobile websites as well as mobile apps for those mobile devices. And so you can use this trifecta. It will allow you to not have to use any plugins, and so the battery life will be preserved in mobile devices. And you'll still have the same interactivity that you had before. You may ask, well, what about animation? And we're going to learn about Canvas in a moment, which provides basically a piece of your screen, devoted to like a window into your animation. Previously, you needed, Flash or QuickTime to provide that window, and now Canvas can provide that window instead. And then CSS3, I know you put on there, and CSS3 is it's an extension. It provides modules, I should say, that add on to CSS2. And that's something very important for you to understand, because CSS1 came out, Cascading Style Sheets 1, and that had all of the different styles that could be placed into a CSS file. Then CSS2 came out, which was an improvement, expanded it. Well, instead of creating CSS3, which was all-inclusive, CSS3, it's really just add-on modules to CSS2. And that's important for all of you to understand, because when the CSS files are validated, believe it or not, you validate your HTML files with the W3C HTML file editor, but they also have a, or not editor, but validator. They also have a CSS validator. And when you validate, most of the CSS files are going to validate as CSS 2.1. And the reason is, with CSS3, these different modules are advanced. I would probably consider them similar to the JavaScript, where
so it'd be like you become a coder. So you have to become a coder really to understand a lot of those. There's a heavy-duty ramp-up time for it, right?
Right, exactly. And I think that the CSS3 elements plus JavaScript, needs to be covered more in like your web developer specialist program would make more sense. And then, of course, the JavaScript course as well.
Okay, makes
so
sense.
I noticed the slide here. It's HTML5 APIs.
Yeah.
This trifecta we've talked about of JavaScript, CSS, and JavaScript, CSS, and HTML5. This trifecta creates what's called an API. And so HTML5, in order to create this interactivity we've talked about, uses application programming interfaces, APIs. That's what it creates. And so although they require heavy JavaScript, we've included 4 of them for students to experiment. We just gave them the code. So in Lesson 7 of SDA, students can actually use and experiment with 4 of the APIs. And those are the Canvas elements, which I talked about, provide the window for multimedia, offline web applications, geolocation, and drag and drop.
So here's the geolocation slide here. And what's cool about geolocation is that students have the ability, once they understand how this works, to make it so that a page becomes aware of a person's particular location. And this can be used for SEO, can be used for e-commerce pages, it can be used in social media, that sort of thing, right? Is that right, Patrick?
That's correct. This is going to be heavily used in HTML5 because it allows you to use any location-based service. So any app you create where they need to know where you are, you can use geolocation. And we have the students actually use this code and create it, and they're going to be able to tell exactly where they are. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool.
And also, I also wanted to give a nod to Dee Bowerstock, who helped. She's one of your professors or instructors, and she helped me with the JavaScript code on these because I'm not a JavaScript coder, and so I needed assistance with this, and she helped. She's one of your JavaScript instructors. So thank you very much, Dee.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job. Yeah, and helping you out. And so you also have the ability, you also show people how to do drag and drop type things in HTML5. And this is actually just a little slide, a little image out of that particular lab there. So I just wanted to point that out. One of the other things that I know, Patrick, you go into, as the course always has, but now you go into markup validation and making sure that people understand, now that we're moving from XHTML to HTML5, that we still offer that. And we provide all sorts of services to provide your, to test your pages, the W3C site and others. And by the way, everybody's going to get a copy of this PowerPoint slide, who's on the webcast. And one of the things that we found is that because this course is introducing people to the world of development, one of Patrick's goals, right, was to allow students to go down the path of developing sophisticated applications, such as what you find at nebo.com, which is, a simple web page, isn't it? And yet you have the ability to log on and use any particular IM service that you want. So now the web browser becomes an IM application, and even a series of applications. So it's this kind of world that we're exposing people to throughout the course. It's exciting stuff. We've also, right, Patrick, added more about social networking. And it's not just, hey, isn't social networking great? We can waste time in the back of the class, chatting with each other. It's more important than that. We teach people how it's part of a marketing campaign and how it's a part of the overall web, and how to choose appropriate platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, things like that. So we've also gone over more additions. So Patrick, tell us a bit, we've upgraded from Windows 7, right? And the browsers that we're using in the course are IE9, Chrome, and Firefox. Is that right?
That's correct. One note about Windows 7 is that we tried to make the course, as much as possible, that the operating system doesn't matter.
Okay.
But of course, it does matter to a certain degree that you have IE9, of course. But people might say, oh my gosh, because right now there's these, there's blogs from Microsoft coming out by their team members saying that Windows 8 is going to be coming out by the end of the year. And that's not going to be a big deal because with the operating system, we don't use it very often. We go into the control panel in a few labs and modify.
Yeah.
But that's it. And so, when Windows 8 comes out, I think people are going to be able to upgrade it to it with no issues if they would like. And this course is still going to run smoothly.
Okay, good. And you notice we stayed with Composer, which doesn't do HTML5 properly, but that's all right. That's why you have a lab that moves people over to HTML5, and I think that's very instructional. Patrick, let's talk a bit about the mobile platforms, and you bring up a really interesting point. At least you did to me earlier. Everybody knows that everybody's going to mobile phones to smartphones, and we've got statistics here. That's what this slide is meant to show. 66% of Americans, for example, much less folks in the UK or elsewhere, own a mobile phone, et cetera. By 2016, low-cost tablets are around. These are becoming the de facto platform. Patrick, you pointed out that 40% of all mobile phones in the US and the UK are smartphones. And not just phones that have the ability to access the web with a cheesy app, but can access it with sophisticated browsers, right, that are capable of handling HTML5 and JavaScript and the whole Trifecta CSS as well. And so they can handle it. So your point, and it's not just Patrick Lane's point, it's one that's out in the industry, very cutting edge. It may not sound like it, but it's like, do you really need to create two versions of the website? So Patrick, let's talk a bit more about this. Why would you not create two websites, and how important is that to understand, not only for this course, but for what the industry expects?
All right. Well, James, I had a few gestalts while I was developing this course, and one of them was absolutely when I realized that two sites aren't going to be needed. You don't have to create a mobile site and a traditional website as you've had to do in the past. And the reason is we're moving from these traditional phones to smartphones that have fully integrated browsers. There's two things that really made me go, oh my gosh. The first is the release last month of Chrome for mobile. And Chrome is Google's browser, and it can be installed on any Android phone. It's available for download, and with all new Android versions that are sold at Verizon Wireless and whatnot. And what the Chrome, I'll just call it mobile Chrome, what it does is it gives you the option to not go to the mobile website for a company. So if you were to go to eBay, it says, do you want to go to the traditional site or the mobile site? And the reason it does that is because the mobile sites, as we point out in the course, are just stripped down versions with usually no graphics, with no multimedia, with little interactivity, if any. It's a boring site, as opposed to traditional sites, which have been using, multimedia, graphics, just very rich sites with, with rich content. And so, the beginning of this is with mobile Chrome, and allowing you the choice not to go, because in the past, any browser, if you use just the Android browser, it'll take you to the mobile site. Now that's not going to be required. And so that was one reason that I went, oh my gosh, this is really happening. The second is, if you go to any phone store right now, what you're going to find is that all of the phones, the screens are getting larger. All the new Droids are about 1.5 times larger than the existing Droid. It's half and half. So the phones are getting bigger. The other thing is, you look at what Apple is doing. There's rumors now that they're going to be developing an iPad mini, which is going to be about half the size to compete with the Fire. And so I'm sitting here looking at this and going, is there going to be a default that's between the iPad screen and the previous, or what is essentially the iPhone screen right now, or the, earlier Droid versions? And maybe there is a screen that's going to be between the two of those. It's going to be a little bit larger so that you can have a great experience with dynamic web content on your mobile device, even if it's just your phone that you're pulling out of your pocket. So what we're going to do, what we're going to see moving forward is fewer mobile sites, because everyone's going to be directed to the rich websites that are traditionally based, but are now based on HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. Does that make sense?
That to me, absolutely. And I suppose as you design your site so that it has focused content, so that it has a liquid design approach, so that it can handle different resolutions, I think you've solved it. And in a sense, we've kind of gone full circle here in the web. I mean, back in the day, everybody pretty much assumed one platform. Now we're assuming many, many different platforms, hundreds, thousands of them, right? Yet you're still able to do that with one site. I find that fascinating. I find that a heck of a development.
Right, and only the big companies have had the money to create and maintain two sites. And so think of the version control between the sites and all that. And there are sophisticated ways of doing that, yes, but I mean really, there aren't many who really can pull that off well. Mm-hmm. And so this is going to help our students. A lot of them will probably work for small businesses. And now they should only have to create and maintain one site.
That's right. The vast majority of people work for small businesses. Well, let's talk about video, Patrick, and what we're able to do. And I see you have a nice page in there doing some self-promotion concerning the creation of video. Because what we did is we made a major change to a lesson that was just all about images, and now we have people create images, sure, but now we also have people creating video. So tell us a bit more about this, because you've supplied a video, but students can also create their own video. All they need, is a webcam. And so the course, as you see here, this slide here is designed to show that we show you how to use the necessary code, the necessary tools and techniques, and how to design a page so it has the appropriate content. And here we've got the software application called the Video Converter Factory that allows you to take the video that you grab from a webcam. And by the way, everybody, a webcam is pretty easy to come by these days. And you then can convert the video into any of the 3 codecs that are available. And so I'm just showing you some slides here designed to show the course and how we basically take people from the beginning to the end on how to properly embed video so that it really adds meaning to the pages, and so that you can consider the audience.
Yeah, that video you just, James, that video you just saw on that screen, you won't believe how easy it was to add that and include those controls. The controls are default HTML5. It's crazy. It was so easy, and I didn't have to use Flash. I didn't have to use QuickTime. That's an MP4 plopped in the page between two video elements. You know, an open and closing tag. It's so cool.
That's fantastic. So students will be learning all about this, and it's a very video-aware course. And this slide here is simply meant to show everybody that it's not just all about fun and games, that we really do teach people the different ways to use audio properly, whether it be traditional MP3, WAVs, OGG audio files, and also, of course, video. So we removed Audacity and we replaced it with Windows Live Movie Maker, which is available everywhere. You'll need a webcam, and even if you don't have a webcam or can't create the video, we're providing a video on the CD. I shouldn't say on the CD, but we're providing a video for the courseware downloads so that you can grab it and edit it as you need. And this way, we make it possible for everybody to have a good experience teaching it as well as learning from it. So we also do a lot of work with video conversion for MP4, for the OGG format, and also for WebM. And the idea, right, Patrick, is to allow students to understand how to support multiple platforms and to understand all the audiences.
That's right. And the video element in HTML5 allows you to create an entry for each. And so you can ensure that, regardless of, what the system supports, on the client side, that you're going to have a video that will work for them. So you can actually create your video in 3 different formats and put it up there.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, we've made some subtractions. For example, for those of you who know the course, it had a frames lesson in there, and it's history. It's gone. It's in the appendix if you ever want to go and check that out. Also, as Patrick has eloquently stated, XHTML has been removed in favor of HTML5, and we've also removed older apps and replaced them with best-of-breed tools.
And one note on frames. Frames are not supported. Frames are not supported by HTML5. They've been replaced by HTML5 structural elements, such as header, footer, nav, and article, which allow you to structure a page by simply using these elements. And it's fantastic how easy it is now. It's going to be a joy for all of you instructors out there to work with.
That's cool stuff. Lots of fun. We also have done a bit of dividing, and by that, we moved a few things around. Lesson 1 is now Lesson 10, and the reason, right, Patrick, we did this is to get students coding and doing stuff right away, rather than focusing on the history of, HTML or whatever. It's important to understand the history. That's why it's still in the course, but we decided we want to make sure people are getting moving right away. We've also moved around some content. 11 and 12 have been moved around and dispersed throughout the course, specifically lessons 1, 2, and 9. Also, the image techniques lesson, right, is now video, audio, and image techniques. So we've, I think, done a very nice job in updating this course. Go ahead, Patrick. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say the course is now 10 lessons.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So what we've done, speaking of the lessons, we've made it so that the lessons do build on each other. Students see progress on a project, the Habitat for Humanity, and it helps students understand how a web page is created, the entire process. But the lessons are also modular in structure. Instructors, if they wish, can pick and choose lessons to use. They stand alone also. And students can easily catch up if they skip a lab or miss a lab or if there's some sort of issue. So we want to make sure that these are courses that are very flexible for you to teach. We don't really have time, I don't think, to go into the revision history, but we have one available, and we can make one available for anybody on the webcast here. You can also contact your sales representative to get a revision history. The courseware blueprint also does a nice job in explaining how you can go, the changes that we've made, and how you can go about adjusting your classroom to accept the latest site development associate course. so we'll make that document available to you, as well as excuse me, as well as a PDF of this webcast. Let's talk for a second about availability. So Patrick, we've got this thing available in August, so thank you very much for getting this thing created. We have revised exams available as well, and that they will be made available in 2012 under a new exam number, and more details will be coming out to everybody about that as well. The idea is that the Site Development Associate course basically prepares you to go into more detailed web development and design. For example, our CIW Web Design Specialist certification. Also our JavaScript Specialist certification, so you can get really heavy duty into HTML5. Our next webcast, everybody, is about our Internet Business Associate course that we're also updating. We're updating all of Foundation. It's next month. It's Wednesday, May 30th, 2012, and it's at 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific and 11 Eastern, and also 4 o'clock UK time. And you can go to CIWcertified.com for more information. Let's see. I want to thank Patrick, by the way, for all your help in doing this this webcast. What specific questions do people have about the course? I see there's a question about security practices, basic security practices, and the answer is yes. What we do specifically in this course, we will talk about the security implications of, for example, using JavaScript and things of that nature. You'll get a better security overview in our Internet Business Associate course, which is the precursor, the predecessor, the, how do you want to put it, the introductory course for Site Development Associate. You'll also get a fantastic overview of security in our third Foundations course, Network Technology Associate. What other questions do people have about the new Site Development Associate course and about CIW Foundation?
James, we've had a couple of questions about using MacBooks and the Mac OS. Is our content and so on going to be effective for users who are in the Mac world?
The courseware will work for those who do well in the Mac world. If you're using an iPhone, it won't work particularly well. But any of the courseware that does use right now, we do have we do have Flash-based drag and drop exercises. But if you use the workarounds that are available, you'll do just fine on a Mac OS, except for the iPhone. Yeah.
Excellent. Good to know. James, we also had a question regarding our certification names. Stephen Muir is asking, says it was divided up into things like administrator, developer, designer, etc. It was straightforward to understand because it matches certifications to job roles. Now they have titles like foundations, which does not mean a lot to him personally. Can you explain a little bit the rationale behind our program names?
You bet, you bet. What we did is we stuck with the name Foundations that was there because what's neat about Foundations, even though there is no Foundations job role out there, what we find is that a great number of people do not yet have sufficient preparation in essential technologies and understanding things such as what browsers really can do, understanding all the internet clients that are out there. They also tend not to have a solid understanding of the whole horizon of network development or understanding how networks work. And so with the Foundations certification, we basically are able to ramp people up and give them a better horizon of expectations for what they can do in the IT world. Also, Internet Business Associate's a great course because it prepares people, even if they don't want to go into IT as a profession, it's what everybody should know. It should be taught in every community college, high school, throughout the world, frankly, because people will learn very quickly that these tools are not just for consuming stuff. These tools are actually out there for producing things. And what we do with Foundations is we move people from being consumers of network technology or the web and move them to being producers. And so that's why we focused on using Foundations, because it's a foundational skill. And then what we do is we move people into specific roles, such as web developers, such as web design, e-commerce. In that way, you get your practical job roles. So you still, we found that it was very important to ramp people up properly Most providers, even vendor-neutral ones, stampede right into a specific job role without first making sure people really understand foundational technology.
Thank you. They're very, very helpful.
You bet, man.
Another participant was asking if there's an upgrade path for students who've already completed current certifications.
When it comes to current certifications, like if you want to go ahead and upgrade from the 5.1B exam to the 6.1B exam?
Yes.
Is that what we do is we basically, once you take the 5.1B exam, you get that certification. We're simply upgrading the exam. So you're going to remain a CIW associate. You're not going to, or I shouldn't say associate. You're going to remain somebody who's SDA certified, even though this new exam has come out. That won't be taken away from you. So to basically, if you want to take the new exam to show that you've done the latest one, you take the new exam. So you won't have your current certification taken away from you. And
right.
If you want to show the latest one, then please go ahead and take the new exam. So we're not providing a Delta exam.
Right. Another question was asking, what's the percentage of coverage for the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript portion?
What we do, percentage of the course, for example. What you'll let's see the best way to answer that. First of all, we start from lessons 1 through 10, describing exactly how HTML goes. So from HTML, I would say you're going to be in that world probably 75% of the 75% of the time. The remainder just creating images and video. So you're going to be focusing on that code, learning the CSS portion, learning how important it is to go to an external site. That might be a bit heavy. I'd say about 70%, 65-70%, and then the rest into creating images, creating video, and then understanding how that all fits along with things such as JavaScript, and then a little bit on the server side, understanding how servers serve up the video, how servers put together all of those pieces for you for the server-side scripting as well as client-side scripting.
Excellent, excellent. Are we going to have self-study versions of our courseware available as well as all of our usual delivery methods?
Yes. Yes, we will. And the self-study kits, they'll become available a bit later than the August timeframe, but yes, absolutely. We do that for various reasons, for individuals, obviously, and then we have clients as well who demand self-study kits. So, yeah. There's a question about how long the certifications remain valid. Right now, we have lifetime certifications. So that's the short answer for that.
Right. Excellent. I do get that question a lot from candidates as well.
Yeah, it's a good question, man. That right now, we reserve the right to change that, but right now we have lifetime certs.
Yes, we do encourage basically your existing cert is valid for life, but we do encourage people to recertify whenever a new program comes out. That's usually how I explain it when I get candidates asking me, you know, in our certification area about how to handle that. All right, I see we still have a few questions rolling in. James, I don't see a lot of other new questions to address directly and publicly. I think we're just about ready to wrap up. There's still a few questions coming in, but we can handle those questions offline, or we can connect you with your account manager who can answer a lot of questions regarding the courseware. If you're interested in becoming a testing center, your account manager can work with you on that. If you want to understand, additional ways for implementing your stuff, your account manager is going to handle a lot of those things.
Yeah. Here's one question, Lisa. Go ahead, Lisa. Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering, just for my own curiosity, when do we expect evaluation copies to be available to send out to people?
Let's see, we're main booking a lot of the course today. We're making everything available around August, so you'll be able to take a look at that. We'll also have samples beforehand. So around the August time frame, and contact your salesperson for when that to see when that changes. So if that changes, that's my answer. There was a question about delivery. In other words, how do we deliver our courseware? And a couple answers. If you want plain old books, we can do that. We prefer to offer it online. via our CIW campuses. Our campuses are basically a portal, a login environment. Once you log in, the books are made available via PDF format, and then students are able to read them any way they wish. We also have quizzes. We also have Flash-based drag-and-drop exercises and matching and all sorts of really cool exercises that help make the learning more exciting. So we prefer an online model is the short answer.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
There's a question about, are the certifications, are they theoretical or practical? We're big time into practical. One of the things that I've found over the years in traveling from Beijing to Scotland and all over the U.S. and Japan is that it creates troubleshooting-minded people who say, okay, we all know how it's supposed to work, and that's great, but when you really start implementing, there are always issues that come up. That's part of the fun. And so CIW is very practical. We have, I use the word kinesthetic a lot. We have very practical labs that are catered to hands-on learners. We also have other means of learning that are good for visual learners and audio learners as well. But we're big fans of the idea of learning by doing.
All righty.
Let's see. We find, yeah, and again, CIW certs are lifetime certs. We also are big on making sure that people understand that that CIW is all about the web open source stuff as well as proprietary. So we will profile Microsoft stuff and stuff from Linux, as well as technologies from Adobe. So we have no problem talking about all of this. We're not vendor absent, we're vendor plural, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I guess is that about it for the questions there, Lisa?
I think so. We'll leave the panel open for a few more minutes, but we do need to wrap up our recording. We'll leave the panel open for people to continue asking questions. I'll try to address them if I can. We'll also put certain people in touch with their account managers who can help with a lot more questions regarding delivery and what your options are and so on.
Absolutely. So I want to thank Patrick Lane so much for attending and helping us out with this webinar. Again, I'm James, and I'm here with Lisa Harnish. My contact information is here. That's you can contact me at 888-303-8694. You can also contact our Director of Marketing, Scott, and at 602-794-4139 to learn more. And again, you can contact your sales representative. So follow us via Twitter. You can get lots of information and ask lots of questions by giving us a tweet at our CIW certified site. And at Facebook, we also have a site there, and on LinkedIn. So we are socially aware in our marketing. So I want to let you know about that. So please follow us today. Again, everybody, you'll get a copy of this PowerPoint, and we're recording this webinar, so you'll be able to go up to CIWcertified.com and get a recording of it there. So again, thank you very much, everybody. And Lisa, I'll just turn it back on over to you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and end our recording now today, and we do appreciate your participation. Thanks, everyone.